Welcome back to Vitamin K, the channel where I talk about getting rid of cold sores. Now first a disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not medically trained, nothing you hear in this video should be taken as medical advice. Now with that out of the way, in this video I'm going to talk about how to get rid of an existing cold sore. If you want to know how to prevent cold sores so that you never have to go through all this again, then go and watch my video on Gum Road where I reveal my cold sore prevention strategy. I've linked it in the description, or for more information about that, watch my first YouTube video. So when I used to get cold sores, I would have a very precise response to deal with an outbreak. Firstly, it's essential to act quickly at the first signs of a cold sore if you want to kill it before it becomes an open blister. Otherwise, the interventions I'm going to talk about in this video will only reduce the duration of the outbreak. So at the first signs of a tingle or an itch or a lump in the lip indicating the birth of a cold sore, I would first hit it with temperature. And I would use both heat and cold to kill or weaken this cold sore. So first of all, this is a great little tool. It's called Herpotherm, and you can buy these on Amazon, and I've left a link in the description box below. In fact, the link I've left is the new and improved version of this. This one is the older model, and it uses a smaller battery, and the battery life therefore isn't very good. The newer model's a lot better, and the newer model's cheaper as well for some reason, which is an added bonus. Now the way it works is this ceramic plate here heats up when you push the button. So you hold this plate against the spot where the cold sore is coming, and I usually press it several times at once because I take everything to the extreme. But what it will do is it will raise the temperature of the cold sore, which can certainly cripple it in the beginning stage. So the way that this works is what they call concentrated heat therapy. The ceramic plate gets to approximately 51 degrees for about 3 seconds, during which time the proteins required for the HSV virus to grow and multiply are broken down by the heat. And this company claims that this is twice as effective as the cold sore creams that use Aciclovir. I will say, this really is a great weapon to have in the arsenal against cold sores. I wouldn't be without it. Now the next thing with temperature is you can go in the opposite direction. So what I would do is I would get an ice cube and I would hold it on the affected spot to freeze the cold sore. And I found that this rapid fluctuation in temperature, going from hot to cold, could sometimes be enough to kill the cold sore on its own if you do it early enough. Now the reason why ice sometimes works is because HSV replication happens fastest at body temperature. That's just the way the virus has evolved. So bringing that temperature down can slow down the cold sore and sometimes allow your immune system to get on top of things. Now make sure you wrap the ice cube in paper towel or a flannel or a washcloth or something like that. What this will do is it will stop your fingers from freezing, and it will also soak up the water as the ice melts. Also, I learned to hold the ice cube on for about 30 seconds at a time, then give it a break for maybe 10 seconds and then repeat. Don't do any more than one ice cube at a time. In fact, sometimes half an ice cube is plenty, especially if you've never done this before. I remember once melting 2 ice cubes, one immediately after the other, when I felt the cold sore coming on, and I think I gave myself frostbite or something, because my whole lips swelled up and the cold sore got a lot worse as a result, so just be careful with this one. Now, melting an ice cube is something I might have done maybe 3 times a day, if in that first day where you feel the cold sore coming on. And I'd blast it with the Herpotherm very frequently, way more often than was recommended. And if the cold sores did become an open blister after doing that, they wouldn't last anywhere near as long. It really did weaken them. One last thing I'll say is, I wouldn't use an ice cube once the cold sore became an open blister, because the melted ice water could spread the infection across your lip. So that's really it for temperature. Now the next thing I would do if I felt a cold sore coming on is I would apply pure organic tea tree oil to the affected spot. Now, obviously, if you're someone who reacts badly to tea tree oil, then don't do this, but I always found it to be very effective. And this isn't some mystical new age essential oil sorcery, okay? The scientific data on the antiviral properties of tea tree oil is very clear. It's been reasonably well studied. tea tree oil contains compounds which disrupt the viral envelope, meaning that it breaks down the protective layer that surrounds certain viruses, including HSV. This envelope contains proteins that help the virus attach to and enter human cells. So if the envelope is damaged by something like tea tree oil, the virus can no longer infect new cells. So this is why it works. Now the way I would apply this is I would use a cotton bud and I would drop maybe 3 drops of tea tree oil onto one end and then apply it to the affected area of the lip. I would then use the dry end of the cotton swab to catch any drips running away from the spot. Then I'd dispose of the cotton swab. And you'll notice that the tea tree oil soaks in pretty quickly, and the treated area will be dry again in a minute or so, meaning that I could literally repeat this procedure quite quickly. And in between applications, once it had dried up, I'd blast it again a few times with the Herpotherm, and then I'd put more tea tree oil on. You know, it was something that could be found quite often I would be doing, because I used to get cold sores maybe once or twice every month when I used to suffer from them. So tea tree oil is a great weapon to have in the arsenal. However, if you use it a lot, like I did, then it can really dry that area of skin out, which can be a little bit uncomfortable. And so that brings me to the next product. Once the area is dried out from excessive tea tree oil use, I would switch to Aciclovir cream. So this is just a basic Aciclovir 5% cream, and the benefits of this, it's gonna give that dry skin some relief, and it's also going to, because it's Aciclovir, it's also going to reduce the HSV replication and further weaken the cold sores. Now you can pick these up most places. I actually bought this tube on Amazon, I think, years ago. I'll leave some links in the description for some options for Aciclovir cream. The best brand I ever used, I think, was called Zovirax, but like I say, it doesn't really matter which one you get. They're all very similar. Now, since you have to apply this cream with a fingertip, make sure you wash your hands before and after application, or use a disposable latex glove. So this brings me to the last thing that you can do to kill or weaken a cold sore in the beginning stage, and that is Aciclovir tablets. Now this isn't for everyone, because this is a proper medicine. However, they are very effective, and they are supposed to reduce the chance of future outbreaks, so they also have long-term prevention potential. I'll make another video on the science of Aciclovir to explain why that is and just how this works. The best place to get these if you're in the UK is from a website called Pharmica, and I've linked them in the description. In fact, I'll leave a link to the best value for money Aciclovir tablets that they sell. Now Pharmica really are a fantastic website. You don't need to wait 6 months to see a doctor or a GP and then get a prescription. Pharmica are an online pharmacy, so they can prescribe these tablets. And their delivery time is phenomenal. It takes only a couple of days to get these in the post. And they also have free delivery on orders over a certain amount, so if you want to stock up your medicine cabinet. Oh, and they also sell Aciclovir tablets, which are slightly more expensive, but they do pack a bigger punch. They also sell Zovirax Aciclovir cream and some other stuff. They sell all sorts of pharmacy stuff there. You can buy anything. But like I say, they are linked in the description, so check them out if you're in the UK. I thoroughly recommend them. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. If you get a cold sore coming on, hit it with temperature, hit it with tea tree oil, and hit it with Aciclovir. And if you do these simple things, at the first signs of a cold sore, it might kill it and stop it from ever becoming an open blister, or at the very least, it will reduce the duration of the cold sore. I am sure of that. In fact, I'm not just sure, I'm HSV positive.